Hello there. This video is going to be a bit different from the ones that I usually do, as this one's going to be a bit more unscripted, since what I'm talking about in this video is more of an addendum to my previous video about the Scarborough RT, and specifically about the stations and their original designs. Because the stations that were built today for the Scarborough RT and the original designs are quite different, mostly due to the fact that the original Scarborough RT, as mentioned in the old video, or the previous video, sorry, was to be a high-speed streetcar line, whereas the current RT is a light metro, I guess you could call it. We'll start with the first station on the line, which is Kennedy, and you can see in this picture of the original design that, first of all, the station was supposed to have no roof. And like I said in the previous video, the addition of the roof, I think, not just to keep the elements out of the station, was also added in such a way that to allow for the overhead catenary to be installed, since the roof of the station that exists today isn't level with this lower deck, but instead pops out just slightly above. I'd also like to point out that you can see here in the turning loop that it sort of looks like this loop was supposed to be wide enough for 2 tracks, which is quite a departure from today where the loop is only single tracked. I can't say why the loop in this case would have been 2 tracks, save for maybe the inner track being a layup track for layover trains, while the outer loop would be used for in-service trains. But regardless, to better visualize this model, I also made my own model, because that's something I do in my spare time. And so here we can see at least my sort of interpretation of this model, because this model is obviously in black and white, and there's no dimensions to work with here, so I'm just basing this model off of the current Kennedy station. So the old model could have been slightly shorter, I don't know. But anyways, you can see here that this model, or at least my interpretation of it, you can see the obvious, lack of a roof. The tracks would be in here, and so on and so forth. You can get a better view down here. Let's say this would be the alighting platform. So passengers would get off here, head downstairs, and then the streetcar would continue through the loop before coming to the boarding platform on this side. And then let's go back to this view. So there's a bit of a view of what Kennedy was originally supposed to look like compared to what it looks like today. Like I said, this is my interpretation of it off of black and white images, so it's hard to say what the colors of this station would have been, so I'm just working with what I think it would have been given what we currently have. So next up, I'll go to the next stop on the line, which is Lawrence. You can see in this image of the Lawrence design, first of all, as I said in the previous video, that you can see there wasn't supposed to be an overpass at Lawrence, and instead the line would use level crossings. You can also see a slightly modified version of the bus terminal, once again due to the fact that there'd be no overpass here. This station would also be enclosed with what appears to be a glass roof, as well as 4 bus bays, which is the same as there currently is. There would also, and once again, since everything's at grade, you would have a at grade station entrance instead of what currently exists, which requires you walk down the service road. So here's my slight recreation of it. Once again, bus loop here with the 4 bus bays. You have the ticket area, which is where the gates would be, and as well as the ticket office. So let's get a close-up view of the bus bays. So you can see here that, just going by the original picture, that the streetcar platforms and the bus platforms would be level with each other, and there doesn't appear that there'd be a wall in between the two. Just going off this image, there always could be, but it does seem like it would just be walk straight off the bus straight to the streetcar and vice versa. Here's another view from the roadway, so you'd see the buses come out through here. View around the southbound platforms, this would be heading towards Kennedy. Once again, my own personal picks of what the colors of the station would be, who's to really say. Here's another view, and you can also see the glass roof that this station was originally intended to have, as well as a view of the streetcars, and then lastly one more view of the heading northbound towards Ellesmere. So then let's head back out. So that's pretty much what Lawrence may have looked like, or at least my rough interpretation of it. Once again, quite different from what exists today. So the next station on the line would be Ellesmere, which would be the most, possibly the most minimalist station on the line, barring those possibly built along places like Tara and Shropshire. So for this station, this one's a little bit harder to see due to the perspective of the drawing, but you can see right here that this station, once again, level crossing, and this picture would have been taken likely in the early 70s, maybe mid 70s, so there's not a whole lot of development in the area, especially compared to what there is today. But once again, level crossing, this station would have just been at board. It sort of reminds me of Rosedale, although Rosedale is entrenched, whereas this one would be level with the road. So looking at the model, you can see right here, once again, everything's just quite leveled out, and it's also a very basic station. You know, here's northbound platform, so this would be looking north towards what would be Midland. Let's get a bit of an aerial view. So very basic two platform station, nothing much going on here because nothing much really needed to be going on at Ellesmere Station due to, at the time, the lack of development, lack of possible ridership, and even today this station would still likely have very little use. I'd also like to point out that just like that, these two stations, Ellesmere and Lawrence, would likely also have a level crossing for passengers to cross between the tracks. This isn't completely out of the possibility, as Queen's Quay Station, which is an underground station for the Spadina and Harbourfront streetcars, have a level crossing between the platforms. So there's not much really else to say about Ellesmere Station, so let's move on to what I think is probably one of the biggest departures, and that is Midland. Midland, like what's built today, was elevated, but in a very different architectural style from what was built today. Today, that glass rounded off style, well, this one has a very more industrial look to it, which is quite appropriate to the area that it's in, since that area around Midland is very industrial, with the Atlantic Packaging Factory right on the northeast side dominating the skyline in that area. So if I open up my model of it, let's give me a sec. So here you can see my model of it. The proportions of this section are probably quite off because this section's quite a bit longer, so I'm really lowballing this, but you get the point. So that's a general overview of that design. You can see here at the platform level, quite different from what we have. The picture doesn't really state if the roof would be completely enclosed or if it'd be slightly open like this. I'm going with this design as this is more just a personal choice, personal aesthetic choice on my behalf. So this is the westbound platform, so this would be heading towards Ellesmere. The previous one was the eastbound platform heading towards the Scarborough Town Centre. Here we have a top view, so you can see the roofing, as well as guess you'd call those girders or buttresses or whatever you'd call them, running between the platforms, or the ceiling parts of the platforms. Once again, though, I can't say for certain if this would have been completely enclosed or if this would have just been left open like this. And then down at street level, you'd still have the similar entrance as what exists today, and there'd be no bus terminal, so riders of the Midland bus would get off and then head in and then up the stairs. The last station I did is the last station we have designs for, and that would be the Scarborough Town Centre station, which is another one that's quite a bit of a departure. Actually, the biggest departure in this case. Because once again, this station seems like it was supposed to be at road level compared to the current one, which is elevated above the road. And it looks like it's another one that, similar to Lawrence, would have had a simple get off the bus and walk straight across the platform to get on the streetcar type deal. Access to the Scarborough Town Centre Mall, which would be over here, and the Civic Centre would be through an overpass, which exists today. although the Scarborough RT platforms are actually above that overpass. So if I open up this model, which is right here, so here we have my, at least, interpretation of the Scarborough RT station. It could have been vastly different. So you have your bus bays over here, your streetcar platforms over here, and then you have your overpass, which would lead into the shopping mall. So let's head down to the platform. So here's an eastbound platform. This would be looking towards the line heading east, which would be, depending on the branch you're on, either heading towards Malvern or Markham Road, assuming that branch would get built. The westbound platforms would have the access to this side of the bus terminal. So just like at Lawrence, you get off the bus, walk across, you can get on the streetcar and head towards Kennedy Station. No need to go up any stairs unless you want to head towards Malvern. Then you'd have to go via the overpass. The bus bays, according to this drawings, would be at least two separate pieces. You'd have a set of bus bays on this side and a set of bus bays on this side, leased with at least 8 bays by those drawings. And then lastly, here's an overview from above. So you can see this would be the entrance over here, which would then lead you into the mall or the Civic Center. From there, you would go through the ticket gates and then down the stairs and either onto one of the streetcars or to the bus bays. I'm wagering a guess the bus bays would also just be a standard street crossing. I don't think there'd be an overpass connecting the two or an underpass, as that would seem a bit expensive. And once again, the drawings don't really give any indication of there being some sort of underpass between the bays, and it just seems you'd probably just walk across the street if you wanted to get from these bays to the streetcars. So anyways, that's just a little video I did. Actually, no, before I go, there was one more set of drawings for the streetcars. I didn't make a model of these, but you can see at some point they switched from the street level design to an elevated design. You'd have the streetcars running on an elevated viaduct. This model I didn't make one of because I didn't really feel like it, but at the same time, there's a lot to really try to unpack here, because the bus terminal is at the street level, which, you know, same as it is today. You'd have the streetcar platforms above the bus bays, but it certainly looks like the entrance to the mall would have also been at the same level as the streetcar platforms, which gives a real interesting possibility for a probably a quite congested crossing of the streetcar tracks if you want to cross from the say that would be the eastbound platform towards Malvern if you wanted to cross into the mall. And considering the sheer number of people that get off at the Scarborough Town Center, that seems like it'd be a quite congested crossing. So I'm not sure what I'm looking at here exactly. Like, is this all level or not? But anyways, like I said, that's just a little thing I've done to give you more of a perspective of what the stations were originally planned to look like. And so yeah, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. And if you want to see more videos like this, I have many more like this planned. And I guess for now, that'll be it till my next video. So see you then.